When I awoke, I turned to see Harry sleeping soundly. Bunny, Leona, and Balkis were gone. I rubbed my eyes and looked around, a brief moment of unnecessary panic, and just then, from the shade of the jungle through the fields, I saw Leona walking with Bunny on her shoulders, and Balkis's tail floating above the tall grass. When she got closer, smiling devilishly, I saw she looked quite wet, her shirt sticking to her figure, attractive so as to make me blush.
Edo. Hi. I just went for a swim. They wanted to come along.
Ah, I see. You're not afraid of the piranha, caiman?
Oh, what can I say? I took the risk.
She got a towel from a crate and dried her face, her hair, her neck, and shoulders. I turned so as not to stare.
I don't know about you, but I'm tired of my life lacking risk,
she said in a surprisingly sad tone. Leona sat on the crate, throwing the towel to the bare cot, and procured a lighter and some incense. She lit it and wafted it around herself. I did not recognize its scent. Bunny lit her flames unexpectedly in a kind of shiver that looked like she was delighted by the smoke. Balkis rubbed against my leg like a cat does.
And not the risks you might think. I just mean the hiding, the covert nature of our lives. It's not like I want to dance into the flames, so to speak. I just mean, a re-examination, a reflection.
Sure, I nodded, knowing what she meant.
Trusting life a bit more. That's all.
I knew exactly what she meant, though I could not speak what I thought, as the thoughts were filled with unknown dread. This woman, this vampire Lucy, I kissed her after we spoke to her.
Oh?
Yes, I told Harry it was a kind of revenge, and so it was, perhaps, but I also feel inexplicably drawn to her, like I've never been to a vampire, perhaps even to a human. Yes, it is a new feeling.
Revenge. And you're telling me this why? Because you're wondering about me and Balkis?
Perhaps, sure.
Funny I've never spoken about this. Well, of course I love Balkis. We're a strange pair, that's for sure. The truth is that we've had many different relationships. Sometimes intensely romantic. Sometimes, well, doesn't sound quite right, but almost like siblings, bickering and competitive. We've kind of tried every permutation. Whatever suited the moment, our whimsy. Perhaps we loved each other so much we wanted to try every kind of way of being together. But something in us knew we always had to surrender to change. But now he's more cat than ever. Not even with a proper goodbye. And I'm less and less inclined to change into animal form. The last time I was in raven form, I tried to get through to him. Somehow, but the way he looked at me, almost in a threatening way, like if I pushed my luck, he was going to take my wing off, made it clear he could come back. He just doesn't want to. And he was asking me not to ask it of him. I tell you, as good-natured as Balkis could be, as sweet and untortured compared to the rest of us, he was really deep down, deeply sick of humanity. Like an alien who'd landed among us.
Balkis jumped on Leona's lap, settled in. She rubbed the top of his head, exactly like he liked it. He purred.
But that doesn't really answer your question. Or does it?
Perhaps it does. Perhaps I've always been afraid of love between vampires because of the permanence, you know. As much as I hated leaving lovers over the years, leaving before, I justified it in that I was a bad person. So it made a kind of sense to wound people like this, to love and leave them. And should I stay and love someone with as much life as me, with also as much complexity, as much trouble, well then, Perhaps it would be more terrifying to face that I am also a good person. I don't know.
I get that. And you're a fine person. You're human, like we all. None of us know where this is going, or what we're doing. It'd be easier if we couldn't see our own reflection, like in the myth. I mean, metaphorically, if we were just invisible to our own stuff. Anyway. And what about this woman? Lucy, was it? How do you think she feels about you?
Yes, well, I don't know, but I'm more concerned about him.
Him? Who do you mean?
Ah, I thought Harry might have spoken to you, perhaps. Well, the sound of the helicopter blades came suddenly, and Harry sprang awake, fangs bared, looking embarrassed when he saw us, with Leona's raised hand to calm him.
They're earlier than I thought they'd be. It's okay. It's our ride. Parker sent it.
Leona gathered a few bags. We took our own. Leona told us they would come for the rest later. Bunny and Balkus had no hesitation to jump onto the flying machine, but I found myself a little rattled. Leona gave us headsets to talk with, and then we rose like it was magic, like in my dreamscape with the umbrella, and my stomach stayed down on the ground until Bunny lit her flames and their effect calmed me.
I'd like to know more about the rabbit at some point. Are you both all right?
Harry nodded and looked out the window pensively. The pilot was a young woman, Peruvian perhaps. She didn't speak much, but she appeared friendly. Leona assured us that she could not hear us in the headsets, nor would she care what we had to say. I looked down at where I perceived the fountain had been.
The fountain?
I asked Leona.
Yes, I'm sorry, but I'm glad you were able to make it. This morning I went to its entry and it was gone. Almost as if it had been waiting for you. I have theories on its nature, as does Parker. It would seem it's his specialty. Perhaps it's not lost entirely. Also, there may be others, at least according to Parker.
Where are we going?
Puerto, then Lima. Then we'll see, I suppose. Up to you. Neto, who was it you were speaking of before?
Yes, Greaseman, the one who went to Australia. You must not think us funny for not saying his name. Something must have happened long ago.
Greaseman? Which one? I don't... Oh, Australia. Right. Yes, I remember. The quiet one. Damn. I feel foolish that I've misplaced his name.
Harry and I looked at each other.
Never mind that. He is the one. He is Lucy's husband. He is behind something. We are more confused than anything, unsure if we are to trust him. I'm sure Harry would tell you that she is a manipulator like him, if you can recall. I'm not so sure. I do not know what you think, Harry, but I think I must see him, face him. And see her, I'm sure you mean?
Leona read our expressions, tension but mutual respect.
Yes, of course. I need to see if I'm not being manipulated as well, but either way. Well, there is another way. What about this Parker? When can we meet him?
That can be tricky. He can be discreet. Likes to be extra sure he's not being followed. It's only recently that he'd begun to tell me more about his life, his involvements. You're familiar with the RUS, he told me?
The Red Umbrella Society. So he's one of them.
Used to be. He's a double agent of sorts. He stays in a manner with the organization, but is no longer a faithful, I suppose. And another funny thing he told me, he has a twin, identical. Although he's unsure if he's even alive. There are echelons to this organization. Cults within cults. Rituals of trust. He's still involved because his family's wealth still funds things. And, well, perhaps he's looking out for his brother's safety. But it sounds complicated.
And so he found this fountain for you. Balkus is out of pain, although now only, he's a cat. And in exchange?
Trust. The most valuable exchange. Wouldn't you say? At least for now.
And you trust him?
We saw Parker with Lucy. They looked chummy, rode off in a car together.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't mind meeting her either. Perhaps you boys aren't the best at reading women.
Harry and I looked at each other. Harry laughed.
Fair enough. I'm outvoted. Unless Balkis and the bunny get a say.
Well, they enjoyed following me about this morning. I hate for them to be separated so soon.
Below we saw smoke rising. A clearing of rainforest was on fire. A controlled burn, it would seem, better than the alternative. We passed through the smoke. Bunny lit her flames again. The pilot looked in her rearview mirror. I wondered if she'd even seen Bunny, or if she did, if she'd somehow seen it all in this land of color and vibrance and creatures as wild as the imagination. The voices spoke in unison. "We'd like to stay, please. Leave us here." I did not know what to make of it. I threw up in the airport bathroom before we left from Puerto Maldonado. I was immediately all right after, but Leona and Harry and Bunny were understandably concerned. It's not like vampires can't throw up, but it is rare. We rarely get sick. Harry threw up after we rescued him, but he really overdid it with the gas station sushi and a gallon of milk. Also, he was in rough shape. I had thrown up before in my life, but I couldn't tell you when. Leona and Harry's expressions of concern worried me more than me being sick, actually. I drank a number of bottles of ginger ale on the plane to settle my stomach, but it was more for show. I don't want to admit it, but I rather enjoyed the feeling. I am embarrassed to say I like when people are concerned for me as well. Must remind me of when Agatha tended to me those first fateful days. Why could I not admit that she had taken the risk only to stay in my life? To protect me? Why did I always view her as competitive? I slept on the plane, which was not private but mostly empty going back to Lima. Leona took us to a hotel suite. She was going back with Balkis, back to London for a while, just to meditate and sleep. Before going, she gave us a receipt that Parker had left behind. It dated a few weeks back. It was for a Vietnamese restaurant, it would seem, in Como, Italy.
He seldom does things by accident,
said Leona. Balkis was grooming Bunny on the bed when we said our goodbyes, unemotionally as vampires do. Only Bunny's wet, matted hair as I picked her up gave me a little shiver for some reason. She rolled onto the tweed jacket I was holding to dry herself. We would lay over in Madrid, a long flight, but then a train ride to Italy. We lifted up and out the fog of Lima, and I suddenly had an indescribable longing for the jungle, for the butterflies, for the overwhelming breath of nature, for the fountain, like longing for a parent I never had. I listened to myself. "We're still here," said the voices.